My coworker keeps stealing my tools, so I weld his tools to the ceiling. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. First off, I'd like to say that this was my father's story and not mine, but it's one of his best. A little backstory to get you caught up. My father was a welder at a pulp and paper mill on maintenance with a union. There were around 500 people who worked here at the time, mid to late 80s. On my dad's crew, there was a man they called Squirrel, because he would take anything small enough to carry and take it home. Some of the things were specialized tools made for a certain machine, and they would have to be ordered in again at the company's expense. I guess there wasn't much the mill could do, because somehow the union backed him. It wasn't long before my father's tools started going missing. He knew where to look and found them in Squirrel's toolbox and some scattered on his workbench. Squirrel was an average-sized man, around 5'9" to 5'10", but my father was a huge man, standing at 6'5" and around 250 pounds. So Squirrel didn't say a word. He was too scared to. My father reported this to the union rep in the main office and was told they would investigate. Squirrel was given 1 week paid suspension while the investigation went on. They found many of the missing things in his locker, lunchbox, toolbox, etc. Somehow, he got the union to back him again and was allowed to come back to work at the end of his suspension. My father grabbed his mobile welder and went into Squirrel's area and welded together a giant metal box. He took everything he could identify as Squirrel's, put it in the box, and welded a top on top of it. He then got the help of one of his coworker buddies to lift the box, and Dad welded it to the bottom of the I-beam on the ceiling, about 20 feet in the air. The day Squirrel came back, he was looking for all his things, but couldn't find anything. He asked everyone he could, but no one said a word except, "I take care of my tools, maybe you should take better care of yours." This went on for a couple hours until Squirrel went into the main office to complain, saying someone stole everything of his. The shop steward and Squirrel walked into the maintenance shop to ask people in there where his things were. Dad stood up and walked up close, and knowing him, he was towering over Squirrel and said something along the lines of, "Squirrels like to climb to store their stuff. Are you sure you didn't climb the I-beam and put your stuff up there?" I guess the look of, "Oh no," on the shop steward's face was almost too good. But the look of pure horror on Squirrel's face was my dad's favorite part of this story. He would laugh just as hard at every telling when he got to this part. Squirrel went into his work area and looked up. He saw the box up there. He tried to get anyone's help to get it down, but everyone seemed to have important things to do and couldn't help at the moment. Squirrel took a day and a half of working alone to get his things from the box and to remove the box from where it was welded. My father said not a thing ever went missing again, and Squirrel worked there another 10 years or more until the mill was shut down. I can say I believe him, because one night at his place, I got drunk and was thinking about going home. He went to the basement and made a little box and welded my keys in it. I got them back the next day. I miss my father and his stories of messing with jerks. It sounds like this guy had at least this coming. It's stories like these that make me really hate unions sometimes. You get workers you really don't want to have to deal with, like this guy just stealing everyone's stuff, and somehow they're still allowed to keep their job. In some cases, unions do a lot of good work, but in cases like this, they just end up keeping the crappy employee around, and everyone has to deal with him. Still, I'm sure this guy won't go around stealing anyone's stuff again. Not if he's gonna lose a day and a half of work trying to get his own stuff back. A girl at my gym accuses me of taking pictures of her and insists I show her my phone to prove my innocence. I'm at the gym today and I'm walking towards an empty squat rack. 10 feet in front of and 1 feet to the right of my rack is another rack that a girl, Belinda, 20, is doing squats on. While walking up, I briefly notice that her leggings are see-through, and when she bends down in her squats, you can easily see she's also not wearing underwear. That's not my business. That's her choice. But it made me uncomfortable to take a rack that was kinda behind her. I had been waiting my entire gym session for one of these racks to open up, and this was my last lift before leaving, so I went ahead and took it. I went through my workout as normal. After every set, I check my phone for 5 to 20 seconds. I track every single set for every single lift in a spreadsheet to note how much I lifted and for how many reps. Sometimes I need to remind myself what I did last week to make sure I'm progressing. Sometimes I'm just checking the time. Sometimes I'm changing the song on my Spotify. Tonight specifically, there was a very important basketball game playing, so I wanted to keep up with the score. So I use my phone a lot at the gym. I finished my third set when Belinda turns around and walks up to me with her phone up yelling, "What the heck are you doing? You perv, stop taking pictures of me." I'm caught completely off guard, but I explain that I'm just taking notes on what I'm lifting, that I'm not paying attention to her at all. She's being extra loud, so other people are starting to look at us. Plus, she's recording me, and she demands I go through my pictures and videos to show her what I was recording, and I delete the ones I took of her. I try to again explain I didn't record anything of her at all. She's yelling that I have nothing to hide, so I should have no problem showing her. So I insist on going to gym management. Once at the front, we both explain our stories. She's still recording. The normal gym attendee asks me if I'm willing to show her, a neutral third party, my pictures and videos. She also says if I have nothing to hide, it's not a big deal and we can squash it right now. I refuse. I have my own uncensored pictures in there, plus those of my girlfriend. I'm not gonna let anyone force me to show them my pictures for some bullcrap. I do show her my spreadsheet, which shows it's been revised over 15 times in the past 50 minutes. So that proves what I was using my phone for. That was received well, but they still expected me to prove my innocence. I told them they need to review the cameras. Apparently, only the manager has access to them, so I was told he'd call me before the end of the night, in about an hour. My girlfriend tells me I should have just let them look at my phone, because she doesn't mind and it would have cleared this all up. But I mind. I get that someone wouldn't want someone taking pictures of them, but violating my privacy to prove I wasn't taking pictures of you crosses a line for me. Am I a jerk for not wanting to show some random stranger photos on my phone? No, you handled this the right way. You're not obligated to show your phone, and if you were in fact taking pictures of her, there should be some hint of that on the cameras. And you also said that you have private pictures of yourself on your phone. The last thing you want is being forced to open up your phone and she sees that picture and then starts claiming some other form of sexual harassment saying you made her look at it. I think you handled the situation the best you could, but honestly, don't wear see-through pants and no underwear at the gym. Trust me, I don't want to be staring at your pooter. Our vacationing family and friends seems to think that we're a free B&B. Some short backstory, we used to live in a different country but moved to Europe. And since then, we've gotten so many freeloaders from our old life coming here for free accommodation. Our home is currently a large 5-bedroom house on a farm in the mountains. It's a small town in the middle of Europe, so it's super peaceful, but we're still close enough to the capital city and other hubs. We used to live in a big city in another country, and still have a lot of family and friends there. We've been here for close to 20 years now, and in those first few years, we'd get a steady stream of people coming to stay with us on the pretext, "It's so good to see you again." I'm not kidding. Between June and the end of August, we'd have one group leave and another arrive. Hospitality being what it is, we never asked these people to pay for their stay, and they never offered. The first year was bearable, but after 3 or 4 years of this, we're over it. These freeloading leeches had other family and friends within a few hours of us, and we heard from some of these people that these freeloaders planned their European itinerary according to where they could stay and eat for free, constantly abusing our culture of hospitality. About 3 or 4 years into being a free B&B, news got back to us about how cheap we are. We're a family of 5, so when you get another family that comes in, that's a whole lot of mouths to feed. Often we'd cook up a large pot of meat and vegetable stew with homemade bread or a large roast. We'd also try to take our guests to a local attraction. So imagine when the news gets back to you that we crammed their whole family into one room, gave them crappy food, and took them to boring places. There were also complaints by some that they left our house hungry. One family went as far as to have lost a valuable piece of digital gear and accused my kids of stealing it. They later found the device in the car of another friend, but didn't bother apologizing for the accusations. Not all of our out-of-town guests were bad though. There are the ones that have been invited to come back. The rest have never been invited back, and if they do call, we ask if we can make them a reservation at a local hotel. I'm so sick of kicking one or more of my kids out of their rooms to accommodate choosing beggars, and then have their crap all over my house. They take all your hospitality and expect more, then have the nerve to complain that you don't offer enough food, or that we don't have the right drinks or snacks, and that it's boring here. Needless to say, ever since we're no longer available as a free destination, we're the ones being called cheapskates by choosing beggars who come to Europe and not pay a single night's accommodation in a hotel because they look for suckers to take them in for free. We don't care though, as long as those jerks don't come here. If someone's letting you stay at their place for free and they're feeding you and taking you places, you don't turn around and talk crap about them the second you leave. They are not obligated to do any of that, and they're still choosing to do it to try and let you have a nice vacation. At their expense, I might add. Don't be a jerk. Accept what they're offering you. Take it with a smile, and enjoy your time there. Be happy they're even letting you stay at all. My housemate forced me to pay her rent for a month, so I made her life that much more awful. So there I was, newly arrived in the city of Portland. I was excited to start apartment hunting, and was crashing with a friend of mine in the meantime. After some searching, I came upon a house with a rent amount of $500. Neato. I'll call the number and get interviewed. The girl I chatted with sounded really nice, and we clicked on a lot of things. She said she hates drugs, has 2 dogs, is ultra clean, and just a whole host of other things I like in a person. I checked out the apartment and it was spotless. The dogs were absolutely adorable. She seemed cool and clear-cut. Man, was I in for a good time. The day I moved in, everything changed. I unpacked everything, plugged in my computer, and asked if she had any Wi-Fi. I don't know what that is. I was a little shocked, but whatever, I explained it to her. She laughed, saying how the internet is for nerds, and she personally never uses it. I saw the ad for the apartment online, by the way. Okay, that was a little weird, but whatever, I'll get an internet connection. I wake up and notice that there is dog poop on the floor of the living room. I tell her, and she gets ticked. Starts yelling like crazy at the dogs and locks them up in their cages as punishment. They're constantly locked in her room for seriously like 20 hours at a time. It's absolutely ridiculous. She tends to beat them on occasion too, because she's gotta be a terrible human being in all regards, I guess. There was poop on the floor every single day. Anyways, none of my business. I love dogs, but those ain't my dogs and I'm not telling someone how to raise them. The final straw was when this supposedly drug-free woman invited her friends over to snort a bunch of powder. When I asked her about it, she said, "No, dude, cocaine is pretty much on the same level as alcohol and weed. Don't be such a nerd." Rent is due, so I ask if she's paying with a check or something. She says she currently doesn't have any money, but if I cover a couple months of rent, she'll pay me back. Every red flag on planet Earth is waving in my head. Heck no, I ain't about that life. Luckily, I hadn't signed anything when I moved in, because I guess she didn't understand how that stuff works. So I begin my plan of escape. I call the police and SPCA. I let the police know that she's having another druggy party on a particular day. I let the SPCA know of the absolute filth the dogs go through. I also let the police know about that. I called up my friends and let him know I was crashing at his place again and I would give him $100 if he helped me transport my stuff. It was the perfect plan. She came into my room in the morning wondering if I was planning on leaving. My heart was racing, but I was like, nah dude, this place is awesome. She left for work. To this day, I still don't know what she did for a living, and this was the same exact day as the druggy party. I called my bud and he helped me transport my stuff. I was out of there. I changed my phone number, deleted my email address, and pretty much became invisible to her. A few months later, I called a private investigator and paid her $100 to find out everything she knew about my awful housemate. I was pretty worried about those doggos. I learned the following. She was arrested and charged for intent to distribute drugs. Apparently, she had a huge amount of drugs that I didn't know about, along with other drug-related charges. She was charged with some kind of animal abuse. She was no longer living at that address due to an eviction, and she's currently serving time in prison. Sometimes jerks get what they deserve, and life is good. This really does sound like the roommate from Hades. Like our original poster said, there's so many red flags going off here. Just from the little bit I've gained from what our original poster has told us about their roommate, I'm having a hard time understanding the way that their mind seems to work. No internet, snow isn't a drug, and all kinds of other things that just don't really add up. The rules she laid out when you were moving in are not the rules she lives by at all. It really seems like she was just putting up a front to get you in and try to get you to pay the rent for a couple months. I'm sure that's gotta be illegal in some way, but hey, she's already in prison, so that job's taken care of. My girlfriend refuses to uphold a family tradition because she says it's sexist. I have a big family that's incredibly close. We have big family dinners every few months where we all meet at my great-grandfather's estate and eat together. Typically, how this works is that the women go cook for the time they're there and the men don't. Which I'm fully aware it's very sexist. That being said, I'm one of the youngest people in my family, and my protests mean literally nothing. Some of those women chose not to cook. However, this is usually met with a level of ostracizing. The women who don't cook are wives and long-term girlfriends, so they kinda already have a good family relationship doctored in. When I've seen new partners not cook, it's gone bad. Like completely ostracized, not speaking, cattiness, rudeness, the whole shebang. This dinner will be in 2 weeks, and my girlfriend was asked if she would attend. Initially, she said yes, which is great. I want for her to meet everyone and for everyone to get used to her being around. But when I explained to her the tradition, she was understandably bothered. I told her that I understood where she was coming from. However, it was best for everyone if she just played along. I told her this isn't a permanent thing, and that I'm only asking her to do this so she can avoid bad treatment from the rest of the family. This is her first impression, and I don't think it's best if we cause waves. She told me that it's unacceptable, and that if she has to do that, she won't be going. I've tried to find a compromise with her on this, but she won't budge, and now she's ticked off at me. She told me that if I think it's acceptable to make her do this, I'm just as bad as everyone else. While my point is that she needs to make a good first impression. Am I the jerk? For this one, yes. Clear cut, you're being the jerk. It's very clearly a sexist tradition. You've even acknowledged it yourself. It sounds like it's almost a rite of passing or something. A test if they're going to be eligible to join the family. It's really demeaning. The tradition has to end sometime. Why not with your girlfriend? When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, linked at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot, linked in the description as well. Either way, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.